All right, today we're tackling a huge topic, maybe the topic of our time, climate change. And to do that, we're using a really comprehensive article from the Pure Sustainability Consulting Group as our guide. We're going to get right to the heart of what makes this issue so critical.
And I mean, the source material just lays it out there right from the start. This one sentence really frames the entire conversation for us. It's telling us, hey, this isn't just some niche environmental thing. No, this is a fundamental challenge facing every single one of us.
Okay, that's our starting point. A challenge for all of humanity. First things first, we have to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the issue. And the key thing to remember here is that this isn't some far-off, distant problem for our grandkids. The impacts are here. They're reshaping our world as we speak.
And this is absolutely foundational. We have to start with the scientific consensus. We're talking about decades and decades of data, of analysis, of modeling, and the scientific community has reached a point of overwhelming agreement. They're telling us, loud and clear, climate change is real, and it's primarily caused by us, by human activities.
Okay, so to really get why this is happening, the source uses this fantastic metaphor. Think of it like a warming blanket for the planet. It's a really simple way to understand the science, so let's break down how this whole planetary blanket thing works.
So first, a quick definition, because this is a really key distinction. We're not talking about weather, a really hot summer or a surprisingly cold winter. Climate change is about the big picture, the significant, lasting alterations to Earth's climate patterns over a really long time. We're talking decades, even longer. It's the underlying trend, not the day-to-day forecast. So that leads us to the million-dollar question, right? If the climate is changing in this major, long-term way, what's causing it? And this is where that blanket analogy really clicks. It's all about the enhanced greenhouse effect. See, the natural greenhouse effect is a good thing. It's what keeps our planet from being a frozen rock. Sunlight comes in, warms the Earth, and some heat radiates back out. But, and this is the crucial part, human activities like burning fossil fuels pump out all these extra greenhouse gases. They basically make that blanket thicker, trapping more heat than is natural and totally throwing off the Earth's energy balance. So you can see how this starts to build, right? All that extra trapped heat doesn't just, raise the global thermostat a bit. Oh no, it kicks off this massive chain reaction, a series of cascading consequences. And the thing is, as the source points out, the evidence for this isn't hidden. It's literally all around us.
And that's a really crucial point. This isn't happening in just one place. The effects are being felt everywhere, and they're all connected, impacting our land, our oceans, our cities, everything.
Just look at the physical impacts. It's like a domino effect. We see global temperatures steadily rising. That's not just a number on a chart. That extra energy in the system fuels more frequent and way more intense weather. We're talking hurricanes, droughts, heat waves. At the same time, it's melting ice caps and glaciers all over the world. And where does that water go? Into the ocean, causing sea levels to rise and threatening coastal communities everywhere.
And of course, these massive physical changes have a huge knock-on effect on ecosystems. Take the oceans. They've been like a giant sponge, absorbing a ton of that extra CO2, which is actually making the water more acidic. And that is devastating for so much marine life, especially the really foundational stuff like coral reefs and shellfish. When they're in trouble, the entire ocean food web starts to unravel.
Which brings us to the human and economic toll. Because let's be clear, this is not just an environmental crisis, it's a human crisis. And, as we're about to see, it's a crisis of inequality, one that hits the most vulnerable people the hardest.
This really highlights a core issue of justice. Think of climate change as a threat multiplier. It takes existing challenges like poverty and just makes them so much worse. The communities that are already struggling, the poor, the elderly, people in coastal areas, are the least equipped to deal with these new challenges like food and water shortages or being forced to migrate. It doesn't create the inequality, but boy does it make it deeper.
Okay, so that's the problem and those are the impacts. It's a lot. But the conversation can't end there. It has to turn to solutions. And the source is really clear on this point. Yes, the challenge is immense, but we are not lost. There are clear pathways to a more sustainable future.
And here's a look at that roadmap. This is what we need to do. It's a huge shift, at a big systemic level, transitioning to renewable energy, making everything more energy efficient. But it's also about things like sustainable land use, adapting our infrastructure to be more resilient, and this is key individual action. It really is a collective effort, from the biggest global policies right down to the choices you and I make every day.
And that leaves us with this final, really critical question. The science is crystal clear. The impacts are already here.
We know what the pathways for action are. The source calls this the defining challenge of our time. So the only question left, the only variable in the whole equation, is how are we going to respond?